Hello, friends. We are back. It's your favorite podcast show of the week. This is Location Weekly, and we are recording episode number 702. If you're watching the video of this, as you can see, we are outdoors in the great Canadian winter here in Toronto, and I'm joined this week with Karsten, who's in town here in Toronto. So, How are you?
Absolutely, I'm fine. Great to be here, and winter in Canada. So there's a very popular song in Germany about winter in Canada. So greetings to all the folks out there. Had been an amazing start of the year. So CES and NRF just flew in yesterday from New York. So lots to talk about. Less stories, more insights. All right.
Yeah. So just maybe starting with CES because it happened before. The NRF did. So, I think a lot of, good traffic this year. The attendance was, well over 140,000 from what I saw, at CES this year. I wasn't able to be there in person, last minute changes, but, we had representation there. We had a small LBMA meetup there, which was great and, good attendance. But I think from a technology perspective, the darling of the show was Nvidia, for sure. They were all in the news every day, talking about, their chips and their technology and everything that they're doing. And, the one thing, that really stood out to me in just reading the news announcements coming out from there was, around their AI shopping assistants, and what they're doing with that, both in online e-commerce environments as well as physically in store. But they're really powering, this idea of, creating improved customer experiences using AI to aid consumers in the shopping experience. So really driving natural language models, really driving, customized, personalized experiences, in rapid iterations. So think ChatGPT, but think that in your store, and how that plays in with retail media networks, how that plays with processors, talking to one another, and I think they have a lot of power and capability right now in terms of what they're doing. That was just one of 17 things they announced. So.
Yeah, but let me jump in here because it's very important to understand what's happening out there. So coming back from NRF and seeing the change of the NRF exhibition set up over the years, coming from a traditional supplier industry fair where you can buy mostly all you need to run your retail business into a software-driven show. So years ago, you had to search for software companies in the downstairs in the small hall, and then there was the first booth of Amazon. And today, Amazon Web Services has the biggest booth there, together with Google having the big booth in the main hall with the entrance. You see things are changing from a hardware and hardware digitalization driven model into software. And you mentioned Nvidia. So what we see right now is a big change also, because what they announced, and this is I think very important to understand, is they bring the capabilities of this huge cloud service into a small machine. So computer vision right now is always, you need a cloud service, you have to pay per user, data, whatever, and it drives the cost, and you need an internet connection for that. Lots of retailers don't have that, still struggling with that point. Looking at the small devices, the supercomputer, $3,000 he announced, capable to run computer vision on a small box on site without an internet connection is just amazing and a game changer.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the processing capabilities, the price point that's at now just makes it easy for anybody and affordable. I mean, from a retail point of view, retailers will still push back and say $3,000 per store or whatever, if I have to have one per site, is not manageable when you're talking about big chains. But it's like anything else. When we first saw flat screen TVs coming out, and they were like $5,000 for a TV, and now the same TV is like $200 at the store. So it takes time to drive these price points down, volume purchasing, and so on. But it's a game changer in terms of what that means. So let's jump to NRF. What was probably the coolest thing that you saw in terms of retail technology?
Well, it's always a question what define as cool. So for me, the rise of software in the industry is something which is quite interesting, and we always combine NRF with store tours. For the Western Hemisphere, New York is still the place to go. You have the coolest stores and newest concept from the brands. And what we found out there is that technology has become more and more invisible for the shopper itself. So you don't see as much screens, and please enter your email address at this device, register to the loyalty program, and so on. As we saw it years ago, maybe also a reason that they not want to install hardware and found out that hardware is always, have to be maintained and serviced and updated and all those things. But seeing store concepts where digitalization is invisible, but there you see camera systems, track you down, see how long the wait line is at the cashier, security aspects. So one part. And secondly, when it comes to this self-service checkout things, I think North America is now trying to keep up with Europe. So we have the self-checkout systems all over since years and decades. And now it's coming here very popular. I see lots of stores installing them and making this experience. And this goes down to the shopping cart. So we have scanners on that thing and small displays. Reason is what you said. The price is just falling for this kind of hardware, and it's easy.
Yeah, the self-checkout thing is interesting because many retailers here in North America are playing around with this, installing these things. Some have done it in the last year or two and are now reversing, going back to old school checkouts because the theft has been too high. In terms of people just not charging the products that they're actually buying and stealing stuff. So it's an issue, but I think the technology is also improving around that because, I use self-checkout all the time and a lot of the retailers I go to, and they have voice built into that. So the people who are managing the store, are standing in the area, when you finish paying, it comes and says, thank you for your purchase, loud so that everybody knows, and the receipt has been issued, and it's not just somebody walking away with stuff and they can check it and so on. So yeah, I think that's interesting. Another thing I saw from CES was, coming from the brand side now is, brands like L'Oreal in the cosmetic space continue to innovate. They always have been, one of the leaders in innovation, but, we've seen them with their, try on makeup technology, virtual try-ons and all this kind of stuff. And they've extended that now. They made an announcement about being able to go up to essentially like a smart mirror type of technology and analyze your skin in a matter of seconds and come right back to you with, product recommendations and these kinds of things. So again, I think it's about convenience for the consumer, but it's also about making the technology just super accessible and easy for folks. And a lot of people were playing around with that at the CES show. I saw lots of demos and people going around to that. So I think it's good to see the brands are also investing heavily in this technology. It's not just the retail stores themselves, but the brand companies are behind it.
Yeah, we're very similar. So sometimes I had the feeling at NRF over the years, retail and the whole industry is a bit behind compared to other verticals and retail industries. Now you see AI everywhere and accessible. So that was one. And let me jump into that what we had before, self-checkout systems. I've been at a booth of Diebold Nixdorf, and they showed me the camera system detecting you during your shopping process. So you're standing in front of a shelf, grabbing two bottles of wine and put them in your bag. Nothing happened yet. So you have it in your rucksack. But when you go to the checkout process and you scan just one or two items, so the store associate get alerted by the system itself and showed the video on the screen what happened. So they can decide bring the video to the screen of the customer or just leave it there, just how to approach them. And also North America and maybe, something the well, let's not call it interesting, but it's solving problems. So silent alerts also. So they're doing with AI silent alerts. If somebody raises their hands and say, okay, don't push the button, but the camera detects the raising the hand and you get a silent alert. So seeing this kind of technology is accessible, obviously not so expensive anymore, and solves a lot of questions in the industry.
Yeah, and I think one of the things about this camera technology now being very affordable and accessible is from an analytics point of view as well. It's super interesting, right? Because now, you know, retailers and brands have ability to understand, who's looking at the shelf, how many impressions is the shelf getting, in the same way you have impressions online, but physically in store. If you have cameras there, you can detect, eye movements and expressions and people's feelings about what they see or how the display is. And so you're getting kind of real-time customer feedback sort of indirectly, using these cameras now from an analytics perspective. So it's not just did somebody take something off the shelf, but like did they look at the shelf? Like how long were they looking at that? Did it draw their interest? So like, things like that I think are super interesting. And the technology is now just easy and affordable to do that, which we didn't have that even 1 year, 2 years ago. So
Yeah. So it's coming together. Other highlight from the NRF, yeah, for sure. It was our LBMA dinner. So traditional wise, we meet with selected C-level persons out of various industries. So we had a chance this year to team up with Dalim Software. It's a printing company who helped. It's not a printing company. They're developing software for the creative side of the story. So to fulfill the pipelines and ensure that packaging looks the same all over the world from your products. And seeing this growing together with the physical presence of a product and the digital presence of a product, no matter which media channel we are. Now we are back in the circle of the LBMA. Well, it doesn't matter. So you have to know we are here at the point of interest and what's around me, what kind of media is available. And these media channels are rising again. So we see augmented reality as a rising industry. So extended reality now we call it, by just announcing these, I think 7 or 8 new smart glasses or XR devices at CES show.
yes.
Every big company is now stepping into that thing and saying, okay, we have my own one. So Meta teamed up with Ray-Ban. You may saw the news. This device is just mind blowing in terms of weight and the capabilities is what it's supposed to be. And also the price point is less than 1,000. So that what they predict. So seeing that and see how retailers and brands try to use it for them. It's now easier than ever before, having this one sales data pipeline available and also artificial intelligence helping us. But honestly, it's not AI mostly, it's machine learning. So if you look a bit deeper into the products, what they try to sell, it's machine learning products. It's not generative AI, and there's some kind of education level we have made to jump over. But yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I think the whole space of content management platforms, like what Leem is doing and others, is something that we don't think about every day, but it's behind the scenes powering everything, right? The retail media network, rise that retailers are using. Where's this content managed and stored and sort of initiated from? Is that happening in the store? Is that happening out the store? How is this managed from a workflow perspective between corporate offices and franchisees and localized businesses? How the content is moved from one side to the other. So I think all these things are super interesting. The last thing from my side, just shifting back to CES, is coming to the location data space now. A couple big announcements. We talked about it on the podcast just last week as well, but I think I'd love to get your views. Is one of the big announcements for me was the partnership between AWS Location Services and Here Technologies, teaming up around AI-based mapping tools for developers, and how that's going to change the game, because we know base level mapping POI data, it's free now. For the most part, it's open source, it's free, everybody's contributing to that. All the major players are contributing to that now. But from a developer point of view, there's still a lot of need for, those building apps, those building, applications, those building connectors, between different data sources to how, the mapping data, is evolving there. And I think it's interesting because AWS, if you think about it, or Amazon as a whole, has a lot of location data, has a lot of movement data, has a lot of shipping data, has a lot of, information, and, being able to open that up and using AI to help developers create, things faster and quicker, I think is an interesting concept. So, that was one of the announcements that they made at CES. But, what are your thoughts on that?
I think it's very important that we see how they connect the dots and using technology to connect dots, and at the end try to solve problems they had or try to solve. Because remember a time when there's big data is the new gold and all this stuff, but nobody were able to collect the data and store it and find it back if you need for the purpose. And seeing now teaming up location data, AI driven, and helping connecting these dots to answer the question, is the right product on stock if you advertise it, yes or no, or should I do something else, is super valuable. And at the end of the day, also the media channels are growing together, seeing like we have the systems and they're connected to each of your devices more or less.
Yeah. Okay, so I think, it's a good summary of kind of what we saw there. Maybe the last thing to mention is just to talk a little bit about kind of what we have coming up for the LBMA in the next few months while, you're here. And maybe starting with, what we have in Europe and in Saigon.
Absolutely. Ho Chi Minh City is coming up next. So February 22nd, we have our LBMA dinner, the second in Ho Chi Minh City / Saigon. Thanks to our local partner V-Base and Christian Geisendorfer. I've been there. I will be there, also attending a conference for tech. For me, it is very interesting to see what's going on in our markets down there. So you may know Asia was always a tech-driven and innovation part for us as an LBMA. We're bringing that back with the events and the connections there. Yeah, and then we're jumping into end of March 31st and April 1st for our Retail Local conference down in Munich at the airport. This time together with a association for city marketing. So we have there 300 city marketing managers out of the German-speaking countries and informing themselves how they can rise their innovation in their main streets. So compared to North America, we don't have the shopping malls, but we have main streets, and a lot of big box retailers were gone. So like Kaufgaleria, for example. So this empty retail facilities, what are we doing with them? What does digitalization means for them? So a great topic. You will be there too.
I will be there, as well. And then from there, we move to the end of April, 29th and 30th. We'll be in Chicago for Retail Local America. This one will be slightly different focus. We'll be talking about retail media networks. There'll be a bit of an emphasis on sports and entertainment properties with the agency that we're partnering with there, and I think a fair bit of discussion about AR and VR as well. All hot topics right now in here in North America. So lots to look forward to in the first few months of the year. As always, we thank you for listening and watching. This has, again, been episode 702. And if we've talked about your company today, please reach out to us. We'd love to hear more from you directly. If you have story ideas and things we should be talking about on the show, reach out to us about that as well. If you have a good case study that you want to share, we have a platform for that called Best Retail Cases. You can check that out as well and share that. And until then, we will see you next week with another show. So take care, everybody.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.